Thank you. How are we with time, Olivia? 30 minutes, but I will try to save you some time. Well, basically, I'm very clumsy with these things, so it may happen that I will go up and down, but you can maybe excuse me for that. So from yesterday, you may remember that I have a literary background. So I would like to break the pattern a bit and talk about how we can use words and what we can do with them when it comes to talking about end-of-life dignity. Now, first of all, let me ask you a question. How easy do you think defining dignity in general is? Would it be an easy thing for you to do if I asked you? It's a basic concept, as I know it from the discussion the day before yesterday, but it's not very easy to talk about it. So basically, what we did here is that we created an organization, and the girl there with her husband is the heart of this whole organization, the For Dignity Foundation, because her topic, her PhD research topic is end-of-life dignity and how you can work with that. And I don't know if you have ever heard about the method of dignity therapy. And she does basically research on that. So what kind of end-of-life conditions are useful for this psychotherapeutic intervention? So this comes from a Canadian psychiatrist, Harvey Max Jochinov, and he has this amazing conversation with these people in end-of-life situations. And you can see that this gives them a lot of values and the feeling that they do matter and they have a life full of values and rich context to look back on that. So I'm bringing you the greetings of all these people who are part of the organization. And we created this foundation last year. And with that, actually, the aim was to start the conversation about dignity and end-of-life dignity in Hungary, because it's not so much part of the mainstream. And actually, especially including those who are involved in end-of-life care, and to help them to understand why dignity matters and how they can preserve and do for dignity. And then we also want to do trainings on dignity therapy, so to teach professionals how they can incorporate it into their everyday work and what they can do with that. And then, of course, there are also other things that are part of this mission, as you can see, but we think that it's very important that we can have this conversation at all. So in Hungary, which is not a very big country in the heart of Central Europe, talking about death and dying is not an easy issue. A lot of people die in hospitals. We don't like talking about death. This is a cultural issue, so we try to keep it as far as possible. Modern life also takes away our rituals. People are more and more alienated, and we don't have the possibility to talk and elaborate traumatic experiences. We have a lot of trauma. So when we have all this, you can ask me how trauma and dignity are connected, but I think that someone who has a traumatic experience, maybe his or her dignity is not intact anymore. And then there is also the lack of respect toward the other human being. So all these things constitute to a discussion, the importance of discussion of dignity. And when we talk about death and dying, then we also talk about how death, the understanding of the end of human life, can enrich and give something to our days. So we need to be able to understand that while we have this whole course ahead of us with bridges and with also dancing in the rain and other elements, then it will all come to an end. And we need to understand that what is the sense of our being here, why and how we can make it richer, and how we can just give ourselves a real, authentic life that is worth living. So for this reason, and to facilitate discussion about dignity, we came up with the idea of asking or creating a project, which is with the title, sorry about a lot of Hungarian, but I took the pictures from the Facebook page that the foundation has. And actually, Shim, when we talked about the issue, then the title that we gave to it was "With Your Head Held High," so that you can live your life as fully as you can. And this was the title of the project. And what we ask people to do is to write a short account, a short story, a personal recollection of how they understand dignity, what dignity means for them. And in order to make it more attractive, we also created a campaign. So the picture on the, which one is that? For me, it's the right-hand side, was the short reel that was created to make it known. Then there is this quite, I'm sorry about the quality of the picture, but this is a short video that I tried to capture. And it's a very well-known actor in Hungary, and we managed to convince him to endorse the campaign. And actually, the first prize winner will have the chance to have his or her short story read and interpreted by him. And then there we also have an e-journal, which is called Karon. And in this, all the short stories that are selected will be published. And I'm using future because actually this is the period when the campaign has just finished, and we are in the phase of assessing the writings. So you have this privileged position of learning about the results because no one has heard anything yet. So this is it's a very special presentation that I can show you today. And as we have closed the deadline, we received 38 short stories. And about 2/3 of these stories are own experiences of human end-of-life, dignity, death, or close-to-death stories. But interestingly, we also heard a lot back from healthcare professionals. So how they experience end-of-life situations and what it means to them. So this was a very interesting thing that we could also reach out to those people who wanted to tell us something about their challenges and difficulties in end-of-life dignity. And then I tried to do a very short analysis of the topics. So as you can see, we have had recollections of own experiences of an end-of-life condition. So basically, sick people telling about their illnesses, how they experience it, or what they think about the potential of having an end-of-life condition and how they would face that phase of their life. A lot of them were telling us about what they experienced when they had to lose someone who was very close and dear to them. Apparently, being in hospital or in palliative care is still not the best option to finish life in one way or another, because they were talking about a lot of negative experiences. So we still have a lot to do there. And then, as I mentioned, healthcare professionals' challenges. So, for example, they were mentioning the issue with euthanasia. It's still a discussion. Currently, there is, I'm pretty sure that you are not very familiar with the Hungarian politics or the current situation, apart from the fact maybe that we have a very similar prime minister as Israel has, unfortunately. So, but there is a lawyer, and he had a very high position at the High Court of the Constitution, and he really had a brilliant career ahead of him. However, 2 or 3 years ago, he was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, And that basically means that by now he's unable to move, to eat, drink anymore. And he wanted to start a discussion regarding euthanasia and the fact that the Hungarian constitution is not human enough to help people do certain choices in very well-defined conditions. And he says that he may well die before this whole debate ends, and whether changes can happen, he's not sure. Most probably there won't be big changes in his life. But even the fact that we can talk about this and people can understand that there are certain conditions where it's necessary to allow people to make certain choices, it's not an option anymore, it's a must. And we have this responsibility for others. So this is also very important. Then we also know about the burden, the emotional and psychological burden that healthcare professionals have when they need to work and do their best in palliative care, in any other chronic wards. So it's not an easy role, and they don't have the proper background to do that. So this is probably one of the biggest challenges, to give them some kind of those skills and help them with knowledge so that they can face and understand what they can do for themselves to be better in what they are doing, and yet to keep their souls intact and help them. Then again, we were talking about, I mentioned you that a lot of them told us about losing someone. So loss, grief, and bereavement are central topics of these stories. Then thinking about death, how they can think and prepare for their own death, what the passing of a beloved family member can mean to the individual. This was also reflected in the stories. It was very interesting to see all these arches, so from one generation to the other, or 2 generations back, and how thinking about death appears, and it helps with getting ready with that. Then how trauma is part of our life and how it can affect our lives. Then there is also another issue which came up. This is the caregiver and patient relationship. I don't know about you, but I know that, again, talking about Hungary, being a caregiver, so looking after your ill family member is a very, very big thing to do without basically any social and economic support of the country. So when you do this, you most of the times give up your job, and then you are also emotionally, mentally, in all sorts of ways involved in that. So this is not easy. Then, what I really liked in the short stories was that we learned about how to be emphatic, how you can treat people with respect and dignity, what people saw that they would want from us, how they wanted to be treated like, and then what we can do to manage situations better and pay attention to people in a very nice way. Then I put it in the last parts, but it's not because they are less important, but it was interesting to see also that spirituality and religion are very much part of our lives. So we do think about these issues and they matter to us a lot. And especially with rituals, we also need some fixed points in our lives so that we can pass that final bridge. So these were the main topics. Sorry?
Get on another bridge.
Yes, to get on another bridge. Yes, exactly. And what I also did was to have a look at the titles. Okay, so actually what the titles say were that dignity and human dignity, end-of-life dignity, is shaped as a journey. So you can have it all ahead of you. Then it's part of the nature. A lot of titles talked about like a day outside, or the bridge, or the trip, or I don't know, even the forest. So it was interesting how many times people think of dignity as something natural, and yet we don't get it as natural as it should be. Then, dignity is searching for a sense of your life. So how you see life, what you think about that, how you think it's worth living. Then, what we can make of it so that it can be a life well lived. Then, dignity is also healing from trauma. So to understand and to find the place of that thing that hurt you, and then that you can also overcome it and just understand that this is also part of who you are. Then dignity is also shaped as a net of social customs and traditions. So what we do and how we work with it will be part of human dignity, because of course dignity is culture dependent. So maybe what I understand as dignity will be a bit different from what you have in mind, because of the fact that we have different geographical positions. And dignity is also learning about death, what it means to die, how you die. Then again, the journey to prepare for that. Then again, forgiving and apologizing. When you get to that final part, do you have any remorses? Would you like to apologize for anything? Or would you like to be generous and say that, okay, I'm at peace with you. I don't mind. I don't want any retaliation. Then, dignity is also being responsible for others. If I am responsible for you, I will look at you as a human being who is, just because he or she is a human being, is worthy of dignity and respect. Then, being there for others and seeing and respecting the human other. And again, after death, remembering. So keeping the memories of all those people that are important for us. We are talking about the person in the end-of-life condition. We are talking about all the people around them. And of course, we are talking about the healthcare professionals who are involved in their cares. So you can see that this is a whole big circle. It's a net. Everybody is part of it. So all these things are important. And then finally, so you get to know the list of the winners. I just translated the titles, and I will give you a very, very short summary of the stories themselves. The first one is especially important for me. It's called Burials, because this is the story of 4 deaths. It starts with the death of the father, but you understand that there is a conflict between the mother and the daughter is actually pregnant at the moment when the father dies. And then she loses the son that she is expecting, and then they don't know, she feels that she's completely alone in this situation, but then she also finds some documents which prove that her mother was expecting a baby boy before her birth, and they couldn't bury this baby boy. And then in this double loss, in this situation and in this grief, they can also find each other again. And actually the short story finishes them burying a small doll together. And so in this they find their peace and they find serenity. So this was an amazing story, and I was very happy to see that this came first. The second one, or the first runner-up, is about rituals and how you come to terms with the end of your life. And I think this is the first one. I think is a recollection of what really happened. They talk about the pandemics and everything, so there are a lot of clues for that. The second one is a short story about a Jewish person living in New York who needs to face the end of his life. And in this story, he wants to see how the dead body is cleaned after death. And because of the fact that he has a homosexual relationship with another man, he lost his family. He had to give up his family. So he also lost the chance to be there when his father died. And he was not part of this ritual. So for him being part of this ritual, then coming to terms with the end of his life is a very nice way of getting there and arriving to that very final part. And you can, so I think I don't even understand how people can put words together like this, because it's an amazing way of telling about understanding death and life. Then the old man and his flowers shows us that actually people are important in your life. So you can have the most beautiful garden full of flowers, but if you don't appreciate the people that are also there for you and love you and respect you, then you will never find peace and happiness, because he loses his wife, and just after the death of his wife did he understand that without her life had no meaning. So this was also a very interesting way. Then the last two are about actually social connections, because Our Well-Chilled Lives is a short story of an old man and his neighbor, a young woman or a younger woman. And you can see in the course of the story that the old man gets more and more frail, and in the end he dies, so there is a new neighbor coming. But beforehand we can read about their common habits, how they cut the grass together and then share some discussion. And you can understand how important this part is. So, for example, she changes her cutting the grass habit because the old man cannot cope with that pattern. So she lets the grass grow a bit more so that they can still do it together, because this activity is very important for the old man. And the last one, the sender. So there is a postman who goes everyone to the village, and there is an old man living all alone. His son is somewhere overseas. And then after some time, letters are arriving from this overseas son, telling his father about his life in America, but only after the death of the old man. And the old man tells about the letters and the content to his postman, but only after the death you understand that it is actually the postman writing the letters and taking care of his old friend. So actually there are a lot of other very good stories, and I hope that we can have a good recollection of all these. But these are the very first ones, and I'm happy that I could tell you about them. So, as you can see, and this is just coming to the end, we have created the opportunity to give voice to the expression of end-of-life experiences, traumatic losses, and then we have given the opportunity to these people to express themselves, to reflect on their lives, and to work for them. And then it can also give them some sense of it's important to have relationships while we are still here. So this is what we can do now and here. Meaningful life, again, you have heard this from me a lot of times today, but I think it definitely is important. And then we can also create a sense of we need to live our life, because that is what matters in the end, so that we can have it all together. And then the dignity has so many different colors and shades, and all the different parts are worth to be put to, or worth being put together. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about. And now, leaving you here tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, I know that I will propose to all these kind people that you could see the picture of, that the next project we should do should not be with words, but let's ask people how they can draw dignity and what they can do with that. So thank you very much for listening to me. And I would be happy to know about your feelings and comments and Thank you.
Eva, it's so moving. Is it? It's so touching. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Really, it's just amazing.
I'm happy you liked it.
Yeah.
I was
yeah.
very much afraid to.
But I must. Instead of crying, I will tell you an association that my younger daughter, when she was very young, she and my mother had best relationships, and my mother used to sew for her dresses and dolls and everything. And one day she asked my mother, because you are old, old people die? And my mother said, usually. And, and she started to cry, my daughter. She said, I don't want you to die ever. My mother said, but you know, I need to die before, because I will go and make a beautiful room for you with lots of dolls, with lots of dresses and everything. My daughter asked, can you die now?
Yes, yes. Could you, no, you've used a picture of a Hindu ritual. Yes, could you please go there? Yes, yes. You've used it for a reason. Will you tell me about it?
Yes, because actually this girl, who is, she's a very, I'm sorry, I don't know, but she. So she is an anthropologist, and she has been to India many times.
Okay.
And the presentation we started last year about talking about end-of-life issues, and we collected a lot of pictures.
Yes.
And
if you go there, I'll tell you the significance
okay, thank you.
of this. Yes. So this is a Hindu ritual that gets done after people die. Usually on the 11th, or the 4th day, or the 11th day, or the 13th day. There are differences in terms of region and also in terms of caste. So the mourning period generally for upper caste Brahmins is 11 days. So they get to do the ritual on the 11th day because they're slightly closer to God apparently. Because Brahmins worship knowledge. Okay, so they are the upper caste Hindus. This could be done on the 13th day also. So that is when the rest do it. If you look at those, so there's flower in his hands, but in front there is actually, they've taken rice and they've taken black sesame seeds, and with water you make it into a paste, like, and then you basically roll it out like you roll out your steamed rice, and you put it for each of the gods. And because for Hindus we just transition from one life to the other, we have 7 lives, so you thank all the gods. And this is the food for each.
Thank you.
Okay? And yes, so you pray to them, and you not only pray to the gods, during this ritual, you pray to the unborn souls, the embryos, the departed. I mean, you can think of the life circle not from when you're born, but from when you've been conceived. Those are the mantras that are chanted during this.
Thank
so
you.
I was very, very, very surprised to see the star. I mean, this picture here.
Because we try to collect as many images as possible, and I just I could just incorporate a few of them regarding death and dying as we could, and we tried to cover a lot of different cultures. But I thought that this should stay here for some reason. I liked it a lot. So.
Yes, yes.
I'd just like to say, like in Australia, there's almost a juxtaposition because we've just introduced the voluntary dying bill, and so that's actually been legalised recently, and yet we don't have rituals regarding. We don't have the rich cultural history, and so there's. If you lose someone, depending on the proximity of the relationship, you're expected back at work. So there isn't that same grieving process, and I find this really challenging that we've introduced this voluntary dying bill and yet we haven't changed our cultural expectations around what it means to grieve. And I just think that's a really challenging space for Australia, and I think it actually could be potentially quite traumatic and quite damaging in the future. So yeah, just in contrast, I think that, you know, like I feel almost envious of the rituals.
As a matter of fact, after people lose family members, it is customary for other relatives and friends to visit them with food and with clothing, and they're taken care of for a year. Yes, yes. I mean, that's like, and especially with your clothes, because, you know, for new festivals, people generally wear new clothes. So they give you enough to last you throughout the year. And the food, so that the first 14 days, that's the days of the mourning, you don't, you're not expected to cook, so you only have fruits. And so that is also, you know, taken care of by your neighbors, your friends, your relatives. And
very similar. By the 7th.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak to that and say, in Western culture, like sometimes there's a perception that, you know, if you're born white, you've won the cosmic lottery, yeah? Because like other countries are, you know, underprivileged and, you know, and there's this sense of like, not entitlement, but respect for the fact that, but I think that culturally, in lots of ways, Western communities are actually very poor. You know, like they don't have the richness of rituals and the symbolism. Yeah.
Traditional. Yeah. They're missing the traditional characters that they have. Yeah, we have very similar things in the Judaism. For the 7 days, and Rachel can let me add for herself, for the 7 days, the family stay at home and have all the day visitors. And they shouldn't take care of anything like food or anything else. Everyone needs to organize for them and take care of them, and especially not to leave them alone a lot of the time. To be always someone from the family, even to sleep there. They should have very like poor clothes. They also have like one, what the words? Stair one that they will know they're in grave. And then after 7 days, it's actually ending because we're going to the grave again, but for after 30 days again, going up again, and then for the rest 1 year, they're supposed not to go to event and be very modelized. Yes, not celebration, modest, not to do very new stuff or take new adventures or doing new stuff, but it's. Yeah, then you can cry later more.
Story.
But it's amazing, because I have a friend that she's in Israeli, and she said, I wasn't believing Judaism until I was need to sit Shiva. This is the 7 days, because she said, it's okay, all this traditional, it's not for me. Yes, but in the moment that she been in the Shiva, she said, sorry.
It also gives you the license to not, you know, if you're not feeling happy, then you don't need to go. You can just say that, you know, I'm mourning. This year I don't feel like it. And then, like Raquel
she said, I don't know.
Anniversary, then you can go on celebrating anniversary of losses. That's another thing.
Especially because she's a single child and she did everything by herself. And then she said, how can I go back to my life after 1 day? I couldn't do it. I need everyone around me now. I couldn't survive other ways. She said there is very smart thing that I didn't even realize. There is a reason for everything.
No, I just want to, okay, this is about the collective ways, that the social collective ways that we treat, we face the loss, etc. This is good. It's almost every, what I say. But I wanted to remind that talking about, have talked about old people, at the end of their life, but many, many children, think about death. It's very striking, and adults are not aware of it, If I tell you the story of my own child, it's incredible. It's incredible. But I don't want to monopolize now. I will tell you. Do you want me to tell it? No, no. I don't think we have time. No.
Sorry, but now is break time.